Hello, so I'm going to try and explain the extract that is in your booklet on page 52. And we're interested in the question of why Stalin launched collectivization. Why, when there were so many other options available to him, why did he choose collectivization? This extract comes from a very recent biography of Stalin. And in this extract on page 52, you've got three things going on. In the top paragraph, you've got the reasons why Stalin chose collectivization. In the middle paragraph, you've got an explanation of how he went about it, with an explanation of why he became so powerful. And then in the final paragraph, you've got an explanation of the consequences of collectivization. So we're going to concentrate on the top paragraph and the question of why collectivization. And in this paragraph, I find two reasons, really, two justifications for collectivization according to Stephen Kotkin. The first one really is here. The need to achieve higher levels of agricultural output. Reason number two is the do or die imperative to industrialize. Those are the two reasons. Now, let me explain how I get there. First one first. If you work backwards here, you see that Stephen Kotkin says that collectivization was necessary because it would enable mechanization. It would also enable the application of agronomy, in other words, the application of the use of the science of growing things. And he says that this is needed in order to achieve higher levels of output. So collectivization then, small farms had to be consolidated. Collectivization is needed because it will enable mechanization. And it's needed because it will enable the application of agronomy. And all of that is ultimately going to lead to higher levels of output. So there's reason number one. Let's do the same process with reason number two. So reason number two, he says, is the do or die imperative to industrialize, right? So what's the connection between this imperative to industrialize and collectivization? So what we should have done down here, what I should have done down here is extend that point along slightly, because the point is that industrialization has got to be paid for somehow. So actually what I might do is just change that color so that we're using the same scheme as above. So industrialization has got to be paid for. And it's got to be paid for through exports of grain. So getting more grain, including for export, is going to pay for industrialization. But that can only be done by squeezing the peasants. So collectivization, in other words, squeezing the peasants, is going to lead to more grain, which can be sold abroad to finance industrialization. So we've got two reasons there, and hopefully I've been able to show you how he constructs his argument. He says that collectivization is going to be is necessary because it will enable, it will it's needed, it will finance the increased levels of agricultural output, which will lead to industrialization. So that's how his claims are constructed. Now, what else is going on in this paragraph is the discussion of the alternatives. So why collectivization and not some other thing, not some other method? So he talks about two alternatives here, or really two extra considerations, and he says that coercion, so it has to be forced collectivization, is the only way, and it's the only way because the peasants won't collectivize voluntarily. The other point that he makes is that the only other alternative is acceptance of capitalist social relations and the long-term consequences of that. So he says that you can modernize in other ways, but the only real alternative to this is to do it the capitalist way, the way the United States did it, as he discusses in lines 3 and 4. And obviously that's not acceptable for the communists, for Stalin and for the Bolsheviks in 1928. So we've got discussion of two main reasons and two alternatives, and he says that these two alternatives are not viable alternatives, or rather coercion is the only way to attain wholesale collectivization, because the peasants won't do it voluntarily, and you can't just do it using capitalist means, because that's obviously not acceptable to the Bolsheviks. So there we have his explanation for why Stalin launched collectivization. I hope that helps.